Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. The moment the officiant said, "If anyone has a reason, these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now, or forever hold your peace," my 13-year-old daughter stood up. I didn't even have time to whisper her name before she pulled a small silver recorder from the pocket of her dress and said, loud and clear, "Uncle Mark, don't marry her." "I found this in your study. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. My name's Emily Reese. I'm 45, live in Gainesville, Florida, and used to work corrections until my knee gave out. I don't cry easily, but when my daughter stood up in that sea of pastel dresses and folding chairs, every cell in my body lit up with panic. Celine, the bride, if you want to call her that, tilted her head and gave this nervous little laugh, like Lily had just said something adorable. "Sweetheart," she said, still smiling, "I'm sure whatever you found—" Lily cut her off. She hit play. A woman's voice came out, thick French accent, low and fast. "He's gullible, and the house is already listed. I'll get rid of the sister if she pokes around." That was Celine's voice. Celine's real voice. Not the syrupy bakery version she'd been using with our family. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Someone in the back coughed. A chair creaked. The backyard went dead silent except for the hum of a mosquito zapper by the porch light. I didn't blink. I didn't gasp. I didn't even look at Mark, who was standing frozen at the altar with his mouth slightly open like he'd forgotten how breathing worked. Instead, I pulled my phone from my clutch, tapped out a message using a code I hadn't touched in almost 10 years, and sent it straight to someone I trusted at the state attorney's office. One sentence, no names. But it would be enough. The officiant stepped back like the mic might explode. Celine didn't sit down. She didn't run. She just kept smiling. But her eyes were darting all over. Bridesmaids, guests, the table with the homemade cake, the front gate. Her hands were shaking. Lily walked back to me slowly and sat down. She didn't say a word, just handed me the recorder and stared straight ahead like she was watching a fire burn down a house she already knew wasn't hers. I leaned over and whispered, "You did good." Then I turned back to the altar and waited, because this wedding wasn't over. Not even close. 6 months earlier, we were sitting around Mark's dining table, passing a chipped bowl of garlic mashed potatoes when she walked in like she'd always belonged there. "This is Celine," Mark said, beaming like a teenager with a prom date. She smiled, all dimples and silk scarf. "Bonsoir, everyone. I hope you don't mind. I brought a tarte aux pommes. Very traditional. Apple tart," she translated sweetly, in case any of us didn't catch the fancy. Mark had met her at a wine tasting. She owned a bakery, supposedly, in some artsy corner of downtown Gainesville. He said she was from Marseille, a real-deal French woman. I'd never seen him that proud since his wife died 5 years ago. He even trimmed his beard for her, bought new shirts, started using words like flavor profile and umami. The man used to eat chili straight from the can. That night, Celine floated around the room like she was hosting, not visiting. She poured wine, complimented Lily's hair, told my dad he had the hands of a musician. She asked about Lily's school, my job, even offered to teach us how to make proper croissants sometime. I didn't trust her, not even then. But I smiled because Mark looked happy. Still, I listened, watched. She called her father Papa but said he lived in Bordeaux, not Marseille. Later in the night, I asked her about the seafood market in Marseille, just to see if she'd bite. She said something vague about long walks near the boats. That market's inland. You wouldn't walk by it unless you knew exactly where it was. The next morning, Lily pushed scrambled eggs around her plate and said, her accent sounded different when she was talking to Grandpa. "She's probably nervous," I told her, but I wrote it down in a spiral notebook anyway. It kept going. Mark picked up cooking, bought 3 paintings, abstract stuff with muted colors and fancy signatures. "She says I should surround myself with beauty," he told me. He started using cash less, said he and Celine were sharing grocery duties. One Friday, I dropped Lily off at Mark's while I ran errands. When I picked her up, she climbed into the car and shut the door a little too hard. "She was on speakerphone," Lily said, arms crossed. "Speaking French?" I waited. Didn't sound like she was talking about baguettes. I raised my eyebrows. "What did you hear?" She said, "If the comps match, we flip it before November." That night, I searched the Alachua County Property Appraiser website for any recent listings under Mark's name. Nothing. But I started taking photos of any weird documents lying around his house. I dug into Celine's supposed bakery. She rented the storefront, month-to-month lease, no business license filed under her name. She had a Facebook page for the bakery, but every post was just reposted stock photos. No customer reviews, no photos of her behind the counter. And yet, every time she opened her mouth, people listened. I asked Mark once, casually, "What was it about her that made you say, 'Yep, this one's it'?" He laughed. "She sees me, Em. Doesn't look through me like I'm a faded picture of who I used to be." I didn't say anything, but I kept my notes, dates, phrases, places she said she'd lived. I started looking up Marseille's districts, learned enough to know her accent sounded off, mixed with New York vowels if you listened hard enough, and I listened hard. The next weekend, she brought Mark a monogrammed apron and told Lily she should smile more. It softens the face. Lily didn't smile. Neither did I. Because whatever she was cooking up, it wasn't bread. And I was going to figure out what it was. A week later, I stopped by Mark's house to drop off a key he'd left at my place. Celine was out running bakery orders, and Mark waved me inside like he hadn't seen a human all day. We were halfway through coffee when I spotted a thick envelope half-tucked under a cookbook on the counter. The logo on the corner was from a life insurance company I recognized, same one my ex used. I didn't grab it. I waited. When Mark stepped out to answer a call, I casually slid it free. New policy, $500,000. Celine listed as the sole beneficiary. Date? 2 weeks ago. The next page was a notarized signature. His. Hers. I stood there staring at it until the front door opened and Mark walked back in, still talking into his phone. I slipped the envelope right back where I found it. He smiled. Sorry. Client I smiled too, like I hadn't just read my brother's potential obituary. Later that week, Lily got real quiet. Not sullen, not bratty, just quiet. She moved in all the way, Lily said one night. She even changed the electric bill to her name. She's helping your uncle stay organized, I replied. My voice sounded like I was trying to convince both of us. She always smiles, Lily said, but it's fake. Her eyes don't move. It was such a weirdly sharp observation, it made my skin prickle. Celine had settled into Mark's life like she'd always been there. His credit card company address got updated. She stopped calling his truck, that old beater, and started calling it our vehicle. His fridge filled up with fancy butter and cheese with labels in French. One night, Lily slid a crumpled receipt across the kitchen table. She bought truffle salt, duck liver mousse, and $58 chocolate from Switzerland, she said flatly, with his card. She doesn't eat that stuff, Lily added, barely above a whisper. She always says she's gluten-free. I picked up the receipt and scanned it. The total was over $400 for one grocery run. You saw her use his card? She told the cashier he was her fiancé. I was standing right there. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, but inside, I was boiling. The next day, I brought up the life insurance policy while Mark was fixing a loose drawer handle in the kitchen. You think it's smart, putting her on something that big so soon? I said, keeping it casual, like I didn't already know every detail. He chuckled. I'm not 20. I know what I'm doing. That's what worries me. He looked up, his eyes soft but stubborn. She's not my late wife, and I'm not the same man. It's different now. Yeah, it was different. It was dangerous. I didn't push harder. Not yet. I needed him to keep talking, keep trusting. But I went home that night and added another page to the notebook, drew a box around the words sole beneficiary. Celine was planning something. I didn't know the whole thing yet, but I could feel it in my chest like a rock lodged under my ribs. She wasn't just spending money. She was making herself permanent. I didn't expect Lily to be the one to find it. She was supposed to be finishing her science project. Instead, she wandered into Mark's office while I was helping clean out the garage with him. After we left, Lily handed me something in the car. Small, silver, dusty. A USB voice recorder. It was behind that old picture of Aunt Sandy, she said. It fell when I bumped the shelf. I turned it over in my hand. You hit play? She nodded. Didn't understand half of it. French, but it didn't sound like a love letter. I waited until we got home. Closed the bedroom door, plugged it into my laptop, and hit play. First minute was just static and a few thumps. But then, there she was, Celine. Only it didn't sound like the smooth Parisian bakery princess she played in front of everyone. Her voice was tighter, faster, rougher. She slipped in and out of French like she was switching gears. And the French? Not Marseille. I'd heard that kind of French in New Jersey when I worked corrections. She had American in her mouth, too much of it. Then the line that made my spine ice over. Once the papers are signed, he's as good as cashed out. Silence, then laughter. Her laughter, cold, cocky. Another voice, female, different, muffled. Hard to make out. Then Celine again, clearer this time. I'll handle his nosy sister if she makes noise. I pressed pause. I sat there staring at my screen, heart hammering like the words might change if I played them again. Lily knocked once and walked in without waiting. So? I closed the laptop. You were right, I said. But we don't say anything? Not yet. Her face twisted. Why? What if she... If we blow this too early, I said, calm but firm. She disappears. She's smart. She's done this before. We need proof that Styx Lily crossed her arms but didn't argue. I pulled out my old spiral and flipped to a clean page. Wrote the exact quotes word for word, timestamp, and all. Then I pulled out my phone and scrolled until I found a number I hadn't used in years. Tony Drazik, a familiar voice answered. Didn't think I'd ever hear from you again. I need a favor, I said. Quiet one. Tony used to run financial crimes out of Tallahassee, low-level fraud, inheritance scams, elder abuse. We'd crossed paths during a dirty real estate case years back. He still owed me one. What kind of favor? Woman. Claims to own a bakery. Attached herself to my brother like a barnacle. She's already got him changing paperwork, life insurance. We've got a voice recording. Legit? I looked at the recorder. Dead serious. Tony sighed. All right, no formal channels. You want me to look into her quietly? I will. But you gotta keep it tight. I don't spook easy, I said. Good. Because if she smells heat, she'll ghost. We hung up, and I sat there for a minute, staring at the wall. Lily was in the kitchen pretending to do homework, but I could tell her ears were perked. I sat across from her. We're not just dealing with a gold digger, Lil. She looked up. Then what? She's a predator, and predators don't like daylight. We bring it too fast, she'll vanish. Lily picked at the edge of her notebook. How long do we wait? As long as it takes to bury her with her own words. She didn't say anything else that night, just nodded once. I copied the audio file onto a separate USB, labeled it something boring. Family Photos 2020, slided into an envelope, wrote Tony's name on it, and added a sticky note with one word. Watch. That's when I knew we were in it. No more guessing. No more hoping I was wrong. Now, we were playing her game, but on our terms. By the next week, Lily had posted up at the kitchen window like it was her second job. She got home from school, dropped her backpack, grabbed a notebook, and parked herself at the corner of the counter with a clear view of Mark's driveway across the street. She didn't say much, just scribbled, watched, waited. She left today at 3:17, she mumbled one afternoon, flipping her notebook toward me. Came back at 4:29. Mailbox stop, 3 phone calls. One sounded like French, the other 2 were English. One had numbers. Big ones, I looked at her notes. Precise handwriting. Times, phrases, snippets like, needs a second wire confirmation, and he still hasn't seen the invoice. It was cleaner than some reports I used to file at work. Don't let it swallow you, I told her. You're 13. This shouldn't be your burden, she kept writing. It already is. A couple days later, she recorded Celine outside on the back porch talking on the phone. Celine didn't know Lily was in the spare bedroom with the window cracked open, holding a secondhand phone we'd bought just for this. I listened that night with headphones. Celine's voice, sharp and casual, drifted in over the hum of crickets. The appraisal's inflated enough to flip quick. I just need the account clear for the wiring fees. No, he hasn't seen the full valuation yet. Then laughter. Ugly kind. I stared at the floor for a long minute. Then I said, she's selling the damn house out from under him. Lily sat down across from me, her arms crossed tight over her chest. So what now? Do we burn it down? I gave her a look. We don't get to blow up the kitchen just because we don't like the chef. But Lily's voice cracked. She's killing him just slowly. I didn't argue, because she was right. Later that night, while Mark and Celine were out at some wine and poetry thing, Jesus, I went over to feed their dog. Celine had printed something and left it on the printer tray by accident. A spreadsheet, rows of labeled assets. Not just Mark's house, but two of his investment accounts, plus a list of projected transfers and notes like sister unknown variable, minor resistance expected. I snapped photos of every page and emailed them straight to myself, then put the stack back exactly how I found it. When I got home, I showed Lily. She didn't even blink. She's organizing his life like it's hers, she muttered. Or like it's already hers. Lily slammed her notebook shut. How much longer do we wait? I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I still wanted Mark to see it. Not just the receipts and the audio. I wanted him to look her in the eye and see what she really was. If I moved now, I'd be the villain, the bitter sister, the overprotective ex-cop who never let him move on. But if Lily saw what I saw, and she was 13, then maybe Mark still had a chance to wake up. So I told her the plan. If nothing new surfaces before the wedding, I said, we blow it open right there. Full stop. No holding back. Lily stared at me for a long time, then nodded. Okay, she said. Then we wait. From that day forward, Lily watched harder, took better notes, said less. Her eyes started changing, sharper, older. She stopped drawing horses in the margins of her homework. I hated it. But I let it happen, because she deserved the truth, same as Mark. And truth takes time. The last word from the recording hung in the air like smoke. I'll get rid of the sister if she pokes around. Someone dropped their wine glass. The shatter snapped the crowd back into their bodies. Celine didn't flinch. She tilted her head, gave a tight, practiced laugh, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "That's not my voice." This is ridiculous. Mark turned slowly toward her like he was just now realizing he'd invited a stranger into his house. Celine touched his arm. Babe, seriously. You believe this? She's a kid. Anyone could have edited that. I didn't say a word. I didn't look at Mark. I just pulled out my phone again and tapped the same coded signal I'd sent earlier. One phrase. Sent done. Lily sat down beside me, her face blank but her hands trembling in her lap. I reached over and squeezed her fingers once. You did good, I whispered. She didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead like she was still in it. The officiant stepped back again, murmuring something about needing a break. Celine stood alone now, bouquet drooping in her hand, smile plastered tight across her face like it had been sewn there. Guests started shifting in their seats. No one clapped. No one stood. A couple whispered. One older guy in a seersucker jacket muttered, "What the hell kind of wedding is this?" Celine cleared her throat, raising her voice again. Look, this is a misunderstanding. I don't know what kind of prank this is, but it's cruel. Really cruel. No one moved. Mark looked down at the grass, then at Lily, then finally at me. I didn't say a word. 10 minutes later, 2 men and 1 woman in plain clothes stepped through the garden gate like they were just arriving for a late RSVP. They didn't shout, didn't flash badges, just walked right up to Celine and said, "Ma'am, can we speak with you privately?" She blinked. "I'm in the middle of my wedding." One of the men said, "We understand. Just a few questions. It won't take long." Her hand tightened around the bouquet, knuckles white. "About what?" "Just need to clarify a few financial transactions. You're not under arrest yet." Mark stepped back like he needed air, like he couldn't breathe with her that close anymore. Celine's voice stayed calm, but her face started to sweat. "This is absurd." "Who are you people?" The woman flashed a soft smile and said, "We're not here to make a scene." Too late for that. Celine looked around. All those folding chairs. All those faces she'd charmed with honey and croissants and fake memories of France. I watched her eyes scan the crowd like she was trying to find a single friendly face. There weren't any. She finally nodded. "Fine. Let me get my purse." "Don't need it," the man said. "We'll only be a few minutes." They stepped aside, and Celine walked with them through the garden path toward the back gate, her white dress trailing behind her like a costume she forgot to take off. Mark stayed where he was, in front of the arbor, alone now. The officiant said quietly, Should I keep going?" No one answered. One of the groomsmen muttered, "Jesus Christ." I stood, took Lily's hand. We walked past the guests without stopping, past the cake table and the half-melted ice bucket and the empty violin chairs. As we passed Mark, he didn't move. He just looked at Lily. She looked right back. "Sorry, Uncle Mark," she said softly, "but I couldn't let her lie to you." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. We kept walking, and behind us, the wedding collapsed like it was never real to begin with. The chairs were still set up, The cake sat untouched. Nobody really knew what to do. Some guests shuffled toward the exit, avoiding eye contact. A couple glared at me like I'd punched the bride in the face for fun. One older woman, Celine's aunt maybe, muttered disgraceful as she passed. I didn't flinch. But three people who'd known Mark since high school, came up to me quietly. A pat on the arm, a quiet thank you. One leaned in and said, "We always thought something was off." Then they walked off too, like they'd just escaped a near miss. Mark sat in the grass near the arbor, jacket off, champagne glass in his hand, still full. He didn't blink, didn't sip, just stared at the bubbles like they were telling his future. I walked over and dropped to the grass beside him. He didn't look at me, didn't have to. "How long did you know?" he asked finally, voice flat. "Since she said she ran a bakery," I answered, "but didn't know what patachoux was." He gave a dry, breathless laugh, more of a cough. "Jesus Christ, Emily." I waited. He rubbed his face, then looked at his hand like it wasn't even his. "I bought her a car. A hybrid. She said it helped with deliveries. She was playing a part," I said. "A good one." He looked up at me, eyes red but not from tears yet, just that raw burn of humiliation. "You let it go this far?" I nodded once. "Because if I pushed too early, she'd vanish. She would have taken everything and disappeared." He blinked. "And Lily?" "She volunteered. She wanted to help you. You know she loves you, right?" He covered his face with both hands and let out a shaky breath. His shoulders hunched, then they shook. He didn't cry loud, didn't sob, just sat there in the grass like a man whose heart finally caught up to the lie. "I feel like a fool." "You're not." "I am." "You're not, Mark." He looked at me again, this time really looked. "I'm a grown man. I've been through hell. I buried my wife. I raised a son. How the hell did I not see it?" I leaned back on my hands. "Because you're not a con artist." "She is. She studied people. She studied you. And you." I pointed at his chest. "You just wanted love. That's not stupid. That's human." He shook his head. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't turn this into something it's not." "You weren't weak. You were targeted." He looked down at the glass again. "I was going to leave the house to her in my will." I didn't say anything. What was there to say? After a few minutes, he finally poured the champagne out into the grass, just tipped it sideways and let it drain. "That was the expensive bottle," he muttered. I snorted. "Guess she won't get to finish it." We sat in silence for a while after that. No more guests. Just a few bees buzzing around the cake. Then he said, "I don't know what to do next." "You don't have to figure that out today," I said. "Just don't go back in there until they clear it." He nodded slowly. "She fooled everyone." I shook my head. "Not everyone." He looked over. "Lily." "Lily," I said. 13 years old, and she saw her for what she was. Mark's face twisted again, like that hit harder than the con itself. "You raised a good one," he said. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. 2 weeks later, Mark was living in a small 2-bedroom rental just off 16th Avenue. Plain walls, mismatched furniture, one potted plant he swore he'd keep alive this time. He didn't say much, still moved like his skin didn't quite fit. But there was a steadiness now, like something inside him had finally stopped spinning. He started going to a book club at the library on Tuesdays. Mostly retirees, but he liked the quiet. Said it gave him something to look forward to. He started mentoring 2 new appraisers out of Ocala. Gave them the kind of advice nobody bothered to write down, the kind that only comes from getting burned. I dropped by every few days with groceries or coffee. Nothing heavy. We didn't talk about her. He asked once how the investigation was going. I said they were working on it. That was enough for him. Lily, though, she changed more than either of us. She didn't ask if she did the right thing anymore. That question died the minute the handcuffs clicked. Now she just existed with more certainty, walked taller, laughed louder. Her eyes had that clarity some people never earn, not even by 50. One night, she and I were in the kitchen making spaghetti, and she said out of nowhere, "I don't think I like weddings." "Fair enough," I said. "They're mostly for show anyway." She cracked a smile. "Next time Uncle Mark falls in love, I'm hiring a private investigator." "You are the private investigator." She grinned and tossed a noodle at me. We didn't talk about what came next. No long family meetings, no dramatic porch-side reflections. We just adjusted. One meal, one visit, one dry joke at a time. I'd sit on my porch at night sometimes and think about how close we'd come to losing him. Not physically, but the real him. The version of Mark that still believed in good things, in people, in the chance that life might give you one more try. He'd been ready to hand over everything to a woman who never planned to stay. And it wasn't the police who stopped her. It wasn't the courts. It was a teenager with a recorder and a gut feeling. That's what saved him. Not the badge I used to carry, not the evidence board in my head. It was Lily. Just Lily. And from that day on, I started trusting her instincts more than my own. Mark turned 53 the day we drove to St. George Island. The beach was empty, no tourists, no music, just wind, salt, and 3 fold-up chairs we'd stolen from my garage. Lily brought a cooler filled with bread, jam, and a tiny thermos of Earl Grey she claimed made her feel continental. Mark looked older, yeah. His hair was grayer, and his face had lines that hadn't been there before. But he laughed again. Not fake, not forced. Real, belly-deep laughter. And when he sat in the sand with his shoes off and pants rolled up, he looked lighter than I'd seen him in years. "You remember when I used to hate sand?" he asked, shaking it out of his sock. "You still do," I said. "You're just pretending to be spiritual." "I'm evolving," he grinned. Lily was off near the shoreline, poking at shells with a stick, humming something I didn't recognize. Her hair whipped around her face, but she didn't care. She'd gotten braver about wind, water, life in general. She started taking French at school, said it was for fun. I never asked why. One day, I found a page in her notebook with the same phrase written over and over again. Je ne te crois pas. I don't believe you. That same spiral notebook now hung in a black frame on our hallway wall. Her handwriting, messy and small, lined the pages with timestamps, overheard calls, phrases like, "smiles too much when lying." A couple weeks before the beach trip, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the seal on the envelope made me sit up straight. Interpol. Formal as hell. Thanking me for discretion and vigilance during a multi-jurisdictional fraud investigation. They confirmed she, Irina Fournier, real name, was part of an international marriage and property scam ring. 6 aliases, 4 countries, 12 years. I didn't hang the letter, just folded it, put it in the drawer next to our old tax returns, and left it there. Lily's notebook, that got the frame. Mark knew about the letter. I read it to him one night. He didn't ask to keep it. Just said, "Figures." On the beach, Lily finally came back, sand crusted to her ankles, holding a chipped shell in one hand and a squished croissant in the other. "Mom," she said, flopping down next to me, "would you wait that long again?" I looked at her. She wasn't asking for reassurance. She was asking for truth. "I'd wait even longer," I said. "If it meant doing it right." She nodded like she already knew the answer. We didn't talk much after that. Just passed around the jam and shared the warm bread between the 3 of us, quietly. No toasts, no big speeches, just wind, crumbs, and peace. It wasn't the kind of birthday we used to plan when Sandy was alive. No party hats, no fuss. But I saw something shift in Mark's face as he watched the waves. Something quiet and steady. He was still healing. We all were. But he was here, and this time, he was whole. That night, after we got back from the beach, I sat on my porch with a blanket over my knees and a glass of iced tea sweating on the railing. No music, no TV, just crickets and the occasional sound of tires hitting the gravel at the end of the block. Lily was asleep, her door cracked like always. Mark had gone home a little after sunset, tired but full. I just sat there, breathing in the silence. It had been a year since the wedding, since the recording, since everything. Irina Fournier, her real name finally, got 12 years. Wire fraud, identity theft, real estate manipulation. Her face showed up on the news a few times. I didn't watch. I already knew what she looked like when she wasn't pretending. But that wasn't the win. The win was Lily. The way she stood up at that wedding, shaking but clear. The way her voice didn't crack when she pressed play. She didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't make a scene. She just told the truth. Just loud enough for the world to hear. And me? I learned something that day too. It's one thing to protect your people with your body. That's easy. Any fool can jump in front of a bullet. But it's something else entirely to wait, to watch, to bite your tongue while someone you love walks blindfolded toward danger and trust that when it counts, they'll open their eyes. I didn't save Mark. Lily did, because she wasn't blinded by hope or memory or charm. She didn't care about Celine's smile or the wedding or the damn cake. She saw something off and said, "That's not right." She was 13, and I've never respected anyone more in my life. The porch light buzzed overhead. A moth banged into the screen again and again. But inside that stillness, I felt something settle. Not relief, not justice, just steadiness. Like we could finally breathe without looking over our shoulders. I reached down and pulled the blanket tighter. Then I looked at Lily's framed notebook through the window, hanging just inside the hallway, and I smiled